Good Shabbos, everyone. Every year, things start out so nicely. The first few days of January are so calm. For the first few days, it's easy. I'm fulfilling every New Year's resolution that I made. Then winter vacation ends and the everyday obligations begin. School starts again, work gets going, and I quickly come up with excuse after excuse. I have too much to do. I'm too tired to add anything to my schedule. I have too many other people to think of to add any resolutions or fulfill any of the commitments I made for myself. And before I know it, it becomes very easy to tell myself that I can't fulfill any of my New Year's resolutions. We're just over 1 work week into the new year, and if you're anything like me, not only am I having a very hard time fulfilling most or if any of my New Year's resolutions, by now I can't even remember most of them. And I know I'm not alone. According to surveys, 50% of Americans make New Year's resolutions, but only 8%, just 8%, manage to keep the resolutions that they make. Today, as your rabbi, I want to try to help all of us, because I know that's not easy, but to help you fulfill perhaps some of your New Year's resolutions. Now, I know it's not easy. For example, just go to any local gym or fitness center and ask one of the trainers, what's the busiest day of the year? And they'll tell you January 2nd. Hundreds of new people. The gyms are packed. But then they'll tell you that it gets back to normal within a few weeks. And by the end of January, the gyms are back to their normal crowds. What happens to all those well-intended people? Some people tell me that they decide to give up their New Year's resolutions because they actually start to feel guilty. They'll tell me something like, Rabbi, there are so many other people who have issues, who have problems. I should worry about them. My close friend, my family member who has their challenges, they need my help. I don't have time for myself. And Rabbi, they sometimes add, isn't that the Jewish way to act? Shouldn't we care about someone else's challenges, help them with the changes they need to make before worrying about our own personal concerns? As my teacher, Rabbi Elliot Dorr, points out, as Jews, of course, our tradition includes a strong focus on helping others. The Torah has multiple laws that require us to take care of the poor, the widow, the orphan, and the stranger. The rabbis teach us that Torah, prayer, and Gemilut Chasadim, acts of loving kindness towards others, are the three pillars on which the world stands. So yes, of course, we have a major responsibility to help others in need. That's why the Jewish New Year, Rosh Hashanah, calls our attention to our relationships with other people and what more we can do to help others in need. Our secular New Year is different. Aside from parties on New Year's Eve or football games on the day itself, the one aspect that characterizes the marking of the secular New Year in our American tradition are those New Year's resolutions. New Year's resolutions in the American setting focus on what we can and what we need to do for ourselves. On January 1st, we may make resolutions like, I will lose weight, or I will exercise more, or I will find times to put down my smartphone and turn off my computer. But believe it or not, even though it comes from our secular New Year, thinking of ourselves first, of our own personal challenges, the changes that we need to make, we need to help ourselves, that's Jewish as well. Making those our priority before helping others doesn't violate the substance or spirit of the Jewish tradition. This, of course, looks different for everyone. For some, it might mean promising to take an extra hour at the gym, a long walk, or some green juice in the morning. For others, it might mean hot baths after a long day, good talks with a friend, or even honest talks with a therapist. Only you know how to best take care of you. In the complete essays, the great French Renaissance philosopher Michel de Montaigne once said, "The greatest thing in the world is to know how to belong to oneself." This odd phrase, to belong to oneself, conveys a quiet self-confidence and self-awareness. Montaigne implies the value of knowing yourself helps in your own self-management. But if you never take the time to take care of yourself, how can you ever know what you really need? We have an expression in Judaism, Magaili, I have it coming to me. It's okay to say yes to self-improvement, to say yes to healthy drive and to ambition, to say yes to your talent and to your own unique inner and godly light. When we have differential regard and a healthy esteem for ourselves, we're better able to have compassion and insight into the needs of others. Self-care can lead to respect and concern for others. But unfortunately, too often, as a rabbi, I see people who forget to take care of themselves. So it's hard for them to ever do anything for someone else. Older adults who never made the time to take care of themselves, they were always busy working, taking care of others' needs. And too often, I tragically see them spending their last years in hospitals, uncomfortable and in pain. They tell me, Rabbi, I wish I would have taken the time to exercise, maybe have eaten a little bit better, taken breaks from my work, but by then it's too late. Nowadays, I even see our young teenagers. I even see teenagers who certainly don't eat healthy foods, but don't even stay physically fit and active. Often they're inside too much, in front of the computer screens or on their smartphones or playing video games, never getting outside to truly take care of themselves. Or too often, I see our young not taking care of themselves because they're caught up so much in this day and age in building their resumes for college. And they forget about what's most important to build themselves physically, mentally, and emotionally as they become young adults. And too often I see our young go off to universities throughout the country, great universities. But too many of them have a hard time dealing with the emotional stress of being in a new environment, of taking care of their own needs because they never took care of their true own needs when they were teenagers. And perhaps this is one of the tragic reasons that depression levels and suicide rates are at all-time highs in America today. Not only are our precious young under so much pressure today, our young are modeling themselves after us. If we don't take good care of ourselves, why should they? And too often, I see it with couples whose marriages end. Recently, I heard about some lifelong friends who I grew up with who now live on the East Coast. They were high school sweethearts, deeply in love. Now they're getting divorced. Why? Because they tell me they were never taking care of themselves as a couple. They were only focused on their children or their own careers, but they never took care of themselves as a couple, spending time with the person that they pledged under the chuppah to spend their entire lives with. They never spent time going out, just the two of them, going on vacations, just the two of them, spending quality time taking care of each other's needs as a couple. They never worked on their own relationship. And so now it's too late. Even in the most dire of circumstances, our precious Jewish tradition teaches us that when our lives are in danger, our tradition is clear. One must save oneself first and only then seek to save someone else. I often think about this idea when I'm about to take off for a flight. You know the time when the flight attendants stand in the middle of the aisle to tell you what to do in case of emergency, but no one's really listening. Next time you're about to take off on a flight, take a moment and listen. They'll tell you that if, God forbid, the plane loses oxygen and those masks fall down, your natural reaction may be to first put the oxygen mask on your child or someone next to you, then on yourself. But no, the flight attendants tell you. They instruct passengers to first put the mask on yourself, then your child. Because even in the most troubling of situations, you cannot help someone else if you're not okay yourself. All the more so in our everyday normal routines of everyday life. It's okay to take care of yourself first before helping someone else, even our loved ones. In our Torah portion today, we see a biblical giant, Yaakov, Jacob, first take care of his own needs before attending to others. Before he's about to pass away, on his deathbed, before he blesses his grandchildren and his children, he wants to make sure that his own needs are taken care of first. He says to Joseph, he says, "V'shachafti im avotai." When I pass, take me up and bury me in the land of my forefathers and foremothers, in the land of Israel. And then he goes about the business of blessing his offspring. He wants to make sure that he'll be okay first, even when he passes on from this world, before he can bless his grandchildren and children, reminding all of us it's okay to make yourself a priority. Now, don't leave shul today saying, that Rabbi Strauss said we only need to take care of ourselves. This new year, I can be as selfish as I want. I'll deny it. Of course, as Jews, we must also care for others. Yet our tradition does say, we often find that you cannot really help others unless you yourself are in a good position and in a good condition to do so. So in looking after your own welfare and looking to try to fulfill some of those New Year's resolutions you may have made 2 weeks ago, we are carrying out an important Jewish value. Are there elements of your life you need to improve about yourself that you've put off for too long? Elements of your life that you put off for years with excuse after excuse after excuse. Judaism instructs, don't put those elements off any longer. It's not just okay to take care of your own needs. In fact, you're obligated to do so. Shabbat Shalom.